Hello, Maverick fans. Welcome to another edition of the Mavpuckcast. I am Jason, and Jon is here with me.
That's right. Good afternoon. Whenever you're listening. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon. Whenever
And
you're
good
listening to
night.
this, we're recording this in the afternoon, so I'll just say good afternoon, Jason. It's great to be here.
We're recording this after watching an interesting weekend of hockey between the University of North Dakota and Omaha.
Yeah, in a outcome, I don't think that Friday outcome, the Friday win that UNO got at Baxter Arena, I don't know that we were expecting that. Were you expecting it? Because
Oh, I mean,
after
we
the
both,
last,
yeah,
yeah,
we both said that we were going to get swept. I don't think anyone, it's, we were talking about, it's one of those things that I have always felt this team was capable of doing things like that. I just never
right.
thought that they would, right?
Yeah, we've said many times this season that these guys are capable of competing with anybody in the country.
Right.
But after last week's series at Miami,
Right.
which they're not a good team,
And we
and we didn't
played
score a
poorly.
goal on the
Yeah.
weekend, we got swept
Yeah.
and we got blanked for the weekend. We did not know coming into North Dakota, even if it was a North Dakota that had kind of cinched things up in the conference play and didn't have a lot of motivation against us. We knew that they were going to be tough because they're a talented team. They've got a lot of depth, and we just weren't sure where our team's collective psyche was at. And
Right.
and they come in and they play really well, and you could tell that they were blocking shots. They were playing smart that entire game.
Making good decisions with the
Yep.
puck. They made some good movements. They didn't let it get away in a game that got really chippy and dirty. And the refs were, both nights, I think, were obviously biased towards North Dakota. That coming from a guy, I hate talking about the refs.
I know. I hate that. I hate that too
but
because this is one of those things where you'll get a dozen people, many of them, who want to sound all highfalutin, like, I didn't think that the officiating was biased. I thought UNO took as many cheap shots as the Dakota Fighting Hawks did, and I don't. I felt like it was. I felt like they were losing control
I
at
felt
several
they
points
lost
this
control,
weekend.
not losing it.
Friday night in particular.
Friday night they completely lost control of that game.
Yeah.
Completely. And then to try to get it back, it wasn't an even up situation to get back into control of that game. They clearly felt like their way to get back into control of that game was to penalize UNO for little things.
Yep.
That's how they were going to regain control.
Absolutely.
And it's sad. And I see a lot of people on Twitter and Facebook and the social and the message boards and things that clamor about how bad NCHC refs are every week. And, I'm just not one to go there. My kids complain about the referees and their games.
know, yeah.
And I'm like, everyone plays, it's the same referees.
Yes, your daughter
to...
Lexi was talking about her youth hockey games on Saturday night. So yeah, she's not a fan of the officials at her level either. Yeah. I normally don't get too worked up about that, but I have not been impressed with the officiating all season. I know you feel the same way, and I know a number of fans across the conference feel the same way.
But this was beyond. This wasn't just not impressed. This was a disaster both nights.
Absolutely.
Like, you had full-on fist fights that you wouldn't call fighting penalties on, because I know, and I know in college hockey, because it's an automatic suspension, you never want to make that call. Right. But at some point in time, you're going to have to make that call.
Yeah.
And then you've got players getting injured on obvious plays, what I felt at least were obvious calls that you even go back and review and can't come to a reasonable conclusion.
Right.
And I'm just like, where does this go? I mean, you've got North Dakota taking headshots. You've got UNO fighting back.
Yeah, UNO was one of UNO's players. I remember it might have been Conley put one of the North Dakota players in a headlock on Saturday night. Yeah,
because he punched Weiss in the face.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. And I know they like to stand up for their guys.
Right.
But yeah, it was ridiculous.
I mean, and Friday night, I think the big story outside of the win was when North Dakota ran Seville and knocked him out of the game.
And they did that in January when we were up in Grand Forks.
Right.
As well. That seems to be a common theme with Seville. Its teams just seem to want to, try to run him every game.
Which, I get it. I mean, he's not a big goaltender by the standards. and he's had concussion problems in the past.
Sure.
So if the refs aren't going to protect the goaltender like they're supposed to, which
Yeah.
they're told to, I've seen the edict from the NCHC about protecting goaltenders in the league.
Yes, in particular, they want to protect head injuries,
Right,
in this conference
general.
this season. In general,
yeah,
with all players, and that's part of the reason why I think we've been scratching our head about officiating the past couple seasons, is because a lot of times they'll be overly cautious and make calls in the defense of doing that. And this weekend, it didn't seem like, was there a major penalty called all weekend?
No.
I didn't know. Which it felt like in both of those games that there should have been something major called.
Yeah.
But it didn't happen. And Isaiah Seville definitely got his bell rung on Friday night. He went out of the game. We heard that he was knocked cold. We've heard a lot of different things. We heard he'd been transported to the hospital, but then we saw him walking around in a suit after a game, so that didn't seem likely. But he was out. And we don't know at this point whether we'll see him again this season or not. And that's a tough loss for UNO. I mean, that was a tough loss on Friday night against a really good team. We'd struggled the past couple weekends. And so, Austin Roden came in and played really, really well, I thought, on Friday night.
Yeah, he comes in the first period, and I think when you have a goalie change like that, one of the important things as a team to do is to make sure that you let him see pucks that are easy, kind of routine saves.
Yeah.
You let him kind of ease himself into the game. And I thought that particularly Stewart and Scanlon did a really good job of making sure that there weren't ridiculous number of shots or crazy scoring angles or anything. It let him kind of get into the game, and I think that really mattered down the line for UNO.
I think so too, and he had a couple of great glove saves on Friday night. Yeah, there were moments when he looked great, and that, like you said, the team in front of him did a good job of minimizing North Dakota's scoring opportunities, and that was a big deal. That was a big deal. So it was tough for him to come in cold to that game, and I thought he played really, really well. I thought a lot of our guys played well, and it was kind of from some unexpected places. The first goal of the game was by Nate Konepke, which is not a guy that you talk about scoring goals, but he gets the first goal. Kirby Proctor gets the second goal. So, a couple defensemen there getting goals early on. So, and they were, kind of those down low, kind of not pretty goals, but they're what you need.
Yeah, we've talked this year a couple times about UNO struggling, the defensemen struggling to get pucks to the net.
Yeah.
They take shots, but they're blocked out high, and they're just. I didn't feel like they've been doing a great job of shooting around the screens,
right?
And shooting around the block. And I thought that Friday night by far was the best I've seen them do about changing the angle of attack,
right,
so that the puck can get through,
right.
And because really, as a defenseman, at least most of the high talented defensemen that I know have all said the same thing. So I just kind of assume that it's the right thing. Like, rarely as a defenseman are you in a position where you're shooting to score.
Right.
You're typically in a position where you're shooting to
get the puck to that area. Yes.
And if it goes in, great. You're happy.
But you're hoping to get like a rebound or some funny bounce that one of the forwards can pop into the net.
And our system is such that we really don't have the kind of player that can go to the front of the net and just set a screen and just be there to block the goaltender's vision, right? So a lot of our screening happens in motion.
Right.
And our defense, for that to work, our defense has to be much better at finding that lane so that the screen moves through at the right time.
Right.
And it's hard. But
it's dependent on good puck handling, good passing, which, as you know, this season hasn't always happened.
Right.
But when it does, it's been a thing of beauty.
Night.
Yeah.
Friday night was by far the best I've seen this team play all year.
I think so. I think that was the best game we saw this season.
Yeah. And unfortunately, it was followed up with a mess on Saturday. It was
definitely a mess on Saturday.
Really them.
North Dakota really established themselves in their offensive zone early on in the game, and we had trouble countering that, especially early on. I thought we played better in spurts later in the game, but by then, we were down, and this team just does not play well down. I think you would agree on that.
It's better than last season.
It's definitely better than look. The entire thing is better than anything's better than last season.
But I think that the first goal, I didn't think that was. It sucked, but it didn't worry me too much.
No, it didn't. You're down at that point.
It's the late goal in the first period that I thought, we're not gonna.
That was we were on the power play at that point, and
yeah,
you're right. I was worried whenever you give up one of those late goals,
especially a late goal shorthanded.
Yeah. And as you know, my 79-year-old father, he leaves early anyway. A lot of times he'll leave after the second. He left after that goal. That was it for him for the night. He's like, I'm done. I'm out of here. Don't think he's a fair weather fan. He's just, kind of a curmudgeonly guy. So, he was out of there that night. He's like, he wasn't feeling it. Plus it was on, Cox Yearview TV, so he knew he could watch it. So yeah. So that's what he did. But he knew what we would all discover, that it, it wasn't going to be that great the rest of the way. And it was a rough game from then on out.
But the refs got their work in on Saturday. They gave North Dakota power plays when they didn't need them and didn't deserve them, and turned a blind eye to blatant calls.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, there was a high stick where the guy swung at, I don't remember which UNO player it was. It was in the third period. And it wasn't, like I'm skating away and he literally turned and swung and clipped the head. I mean, it wasn't an old school Don Brasher kind of BS slash, right. But it was clear intent to make contact with the head with the stick directly in front of the ref, and there was no call whatsoever on it.
Didn't call anything? No,
and he's yelling at the player's yelling at the ref's yelling at the player. I still don't get how after a scrum in front of the net, North Dakota's Michand, I think it's Michand. Michaud.
It's either Michaud or Michaud.
Michaud.
Yeah.
Him.
Number 11. As everybody knows, we do a great job pronouncing names on this podcast. Pre-moo.
But he comes over, he's yelling something at the ref. I mean, obviously we don't know what he's yelling, but he's yelling something after the ref. He skates over. He makes physical contact with the referee. The referee pushes him away, but doesn't call him for anything. That right there was the moment that I said, this clearly is not, and that's when I tweeted this. This is no longer just referees having a bad night or a bad weekend. That is, to me, black and white. You touch an official in any way, you should be out of the game, period.
Let me ask you about that. And I think it was Friday night. There was a penalty right in front of UNO's bench.
Mm-hmm.
And I did not think that the UNO player even touched the North Dakota player. I could be wrong. Obviously, I was looking at
that was the leap in the air.
Yeah.
Yeah, he made contact.
Did he make contact?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Was it worthy of 2 minutes in the box?
Doesn't matter.
Okay.
There's a rule that states that when a player leaves their feet, you're not supposed to make contact with them.
Okay.
My call would have been roughing on that, because if I remembered right, I thought that the rule said it was roughing. They called it tripping.
Oh, they call it tripping?
Yeah.
How was
I hate tripping? The rule, though. Like, to me, the thing is...
It's a terrible rule.
Like, if I get kind of where it came from, the rule was one of those protect the players. If
place
a player's
of safety,
in the air,
absolutely.
You can't make contact with them. My problem is that he knew what he was getting into when he jumped.
Right.
It wasn't I got hit and then I got hit again. It wasn't outside of my control was I in the air. I made a decision to jump up for that puck. He had the puck in his glove. I can see that you can't pick him up and slam him to the ground or something.
Right.
But as far as I'm concerned, normal contact should be allowed in that situation.
Right.
Which is all it wasn't even normal contact.
He
just clipped him skating behind him.
Yeah, it wasn't like a situation where he was going after him.
It wasn't it wasn't mounted. It wasn't like a lot of the other stuff that happened in the game after the whistle. I mean, and they didn't call. The other one that got me was on it was on Saturday. On Saturday, Roden's against the post, puck's in the corner, and the North Dakota player comes through and elbows him in the head, knocks his helmet off into the net. There's no call, no whistle for a few seconds. They blow the whistle. After the whistle, North Dakota shoots the puck into the empty net. And a melee ensues because, I mean, if he wasn't turned over, if Roden wasn't turned over,
right,
where he was protecting his head just by virtue of reaction to the hit, if you got hit in the head with no helmet on by that puck, that kid's probably dead.
Yeah.
I mean, that wasn't a lazy shot into the net.
You know the speed and the velocity that those things travel at.
I guarantee that was a 60, 70 mile an hour shot of the puck.
Yeah.
After the whistle at a goaltender with no helmet.
I know.
And there was no call. There wasn't a single call. There wasn't a call on the elbow. There wasn't a call on the shot after the whistle. There was nothing on that.
No.
And it's just so, it was so one-sided that I really hope the NCHC looks at it. I know that they won't because I know the way the NCHC works, and I just know this. They never do. They're never going to go back and look at this and say, we have to be better than this, but they really need to. Because these two, I don't know, I'd have to look up who they were. These two were terrible. Beyond terrible.
Can I make a comment too?
Okay.
As it regards penalties and replays.
Okay.
I understand that there's some rule, and again, I haven't taken time to about what they can show and what they can't show on the replay board.
There's no rule. It's etiquette. You're not supposed to show it because the belief is that if you show it to a home fan, the home fan's always going to see it in their team's favor.
Sure.
And they don't want the cheering of the
booing and the other to
influence the call.
See, I didn't know.
It's not a rule. It's just a common etiquette.
I'm just telling people right now. I do not spend a lot of time reading the NCAA hockey rule book.
Mm-hmm.
But when I'm at the game, I want to see more replays. This is the thing that drives me nuts about UNO is I understand that we're the polite state with the polite people who want to do everything right. But I'm telling you right now, I want to see more of this stuff replay because when I'm sitting there at the game, a lot of times it's moving so fast, you miss it and you don't know exactly what happened.
Right.
Show it to us on the damn board. Even goals. You'll get one replay and that's it. And they've got plenty of time before the puck is dropped and the whistle is blown and everything's moving again to show it to us a couple times. And it drives me nuts.
You know what would be really... And you mentioned this and I just thought about this, that we don't do this. But I go to NHL games, and when I go to NHL games, every NHL game I know I go to, and in the intermission, they recap essentially the first period. Here's the goals from the first period, the big plays, some of the fights, some of the,
People were talking about the UNO coverage on NCHC TV, which I normally don't watch home games because I'm there, obviously. And they were saying they didn't show very many replays on the broadcast. It's like, show people the replays. You have the technology. Do it because there's so many things that you miss. And people will be sitting around us, and this goes on because you're in the row behind us. We're all having these, well, what happened just there? Really? Did it happen? Well, no, I saw this. I saw that. Show it to us.
Right.
It would be fine. Nobody's going to rebel. I understand that there were a lot of people dressed in green in the arena on Friday and Saturday night, but I don't think fisticuffs are going to ensue. I mean, at least I hope they're not. You never know when people are consuming beer. Dakota. You never know what's going to happen when people are consuming the devil's ale at hockey games.
Having been to North Dakota for games, having been around North Dakota a lot for very heated, playoff level stuff.
No, we were up at the Ralph in 2011. Yeah, they can be jackasses.
St. Cloud's the other one. I've walked out of, obviously this was back when we were living in Clark. I've walked out of Magnus and seen North Dakota fans fighting with Denver fans. Full on fighting.
And there's a lot about that.
And St. Cloud. St. Cloud's the other one that I've seen actual fisticuffs with, and I don't know what
that kind of brings up a little point. I mentioned to you I was going to mention this before the game. A guy who I've known for a number of years, Jeff Roby. I saw him on Saturday night, and he told me he travels on the road every week and he listens to the podcast. So it's great. So we have at least
Thanks for listening.
Yeah, we got at least one listener, so that's great. Yeah.
Woo-hoo!
He was saying, and he was talking about after our great victory Friday
night victory,
we have our very unique post-game celebration where the team comes out and sings the fight song,
Mm-hmm.
and all of the UNO fans gather around. And it's always fun when you've got a large visiting contingent, because some of them are seeing this for the first time as they exit the arena through the west entrance to Baxter Arena. And so he was telling me, he said, I was standing down there waiting for the team to come out and sing the fight song. And then he said, but there was a North Dakota fan like right there, really close to where the team walks out, in amongst the UNO fans. And he's like, and I don't know if he fussed at him or he wanted to fuss at him, but he's like, I'm just like, dude, why are you here? Why aren't you standing like off to the side, close to the Holland Ice, over there on the kind of the other side of the staircase where visiting fans normally start? He's like, am I right? Am I wrong? Is it wrong to think he shouldn't be there amongst UNO fans? Or is it right to say, hey, why don't you go, stand with your, own people over there? And I don't know. I tend to be one of these, polite Nebraska people too. So I would probably let him stand there, but I can understand the other sentiment.
Yeah. I think the couple things to that. One, I don't know what the situation is. So it's hard for me to say that person should or shouldn't be allowed.
Yeah,
because
if the person was standing there just kind of minding their own business, just kind of minding their own business, curious about it,
right.
Want to see it up close and personal.
What if he's someone who grew up in North Dakota, went to North Dakota, got moved down here for a job, has lived here for like 20 years,
and he just
every other weekend is a UNO fan.
He just threw on his. There could be, because I noticed there were some people in the Mavpuck. Right. There were some people who tweeted at us on Mavpuck where like the wife was wearing, North Dakota gear, and like the husband was wearing UNO gear. And I don't know if they were from here or not, but you could tell that they both had kind of affinities for the different teams. So that's where I'm a little confused. Yeah. I don't know that I would necessarily care one way or the other unless the person was causing problems.
Right. So there's the other thing, is what's the intent for being there? Like if that person intends to be there to try to coerce another fan into fisticuffs,
try to bait them or something, or
because I've seen people do that.
Right.
That to me, like at that point in time, that's when they need to leave, is if that's what they're trying to do. But if they're just there to take it in type of thing, like I have a hard time saying that.
See, exactly.
We have any right to say.
That was my philosophy. I'm like, well, I don't want you to get in trouble trying to, educate another fan. It's not worth it. So
right.
You just, in that instance, you might want to let it go,
But the minute he does something that starts anything, like you're already on thin ice at that point.
Yeah, it's a difficult situation to deal with, because 99% of the time we don't get very many visiting fans. So it's that one North Dakota series every year where we kind of have to deal with that. So that's a hard one. It's kind of, and people are just kind of very emotional anyway. They don't like it when people, from North Dakota at the end of the national anthem yell "Sioux" instead of, when they do the Home of the Brave, they like to yell "Sioux," and it drives me nuts.
Which
too.
They're not the Sioux.
They're not the Sioux anymore either. They changed their name.
I get that that's their chant. I think it's disrespectful, and I don't get it. But that's just my personal opinion.
Yeah, I do too.
That still comes down to, they're not the Sioux. Like,
they're not the Sioux.
For God's sake, get over this, people.
Buy a new jersey. The rest of us. I will tell you right now.
And stop stealing the Blackhawk one.
Every once in a while, I wear retro gear, but quite honestly, I'm so happy to have new stuff that I wear that. I don't wear the stuff with the Old Bull or the OO. So, yeah. So
like, that's what I'd say.
Yeah. So anyway, we just encourage our fans to be careful, be polite, be tactful.
Even if you see something that you disagree with, understand that you don't know everything that's going on there.
Right, and you don't know if they've had a lot to drink.
Right. Now, I've heard that there were instances of North Dakota fans that were throwing half-empty beers at UNO fans on Saturday. Those are the types of things, like, you see that, you say something.
Right.
But just someone who's kind of standing around where you just don't think they should be standing around, to me,
it's hard.
Yeah, I think it's a little classless. It's a little bit classless if that's, like, if they're just trying to make a scene. But again, you don't know what, like, they're there with their significant other. Their significant other is a UNO person and they're a North Dakota person. I mean,
it's hard to know, you know. So
I know a lot of families are like that in NHL. It's like they're Avs fans and husbands, from Detroit, and it's like, yeah, I've seen them there. I don't know how you can have that kind of marriage, but
I don't either.
somehow it works.
Makes no sense to me at all.
Like,
but what are you going to do? So yeah, so be careful, be tactful. That would be our point.
Be respectful.
So
yeah.
Who's your player of the weekend?
I'm really torn on this.
Okay.
I think that I want to call out one. I want to draw attention to one player. I thought Dean Stewart played the best I have seen him play in 4 years of hockey.
I think that might be the best series that he has had.
Friday.
Yes.
Saturday, not so much.
Yeah, no. Everybody was kind of off. He had a very good weekend, especially on Friday. That was a great game.
And to be an outgoing senior, you talk about like a good time for him to have that.
Absolutely.
I just think that's an awesome way for him to kind of say thank you to the fans, to really put in the effort and the work to go out and be the kind of leader that we really needed him to be all year long.
Yep.
So I want to thank him for 4 years of entertainment. I mean,
oh yeah,
we're lucky to all these seniors,
for sure,
Volkening and Keck and
Jones.
Yeah, to watch
Zach Jordan.
Jordan's
been a lot of fun
been
to watch
awesome.
over the years. Yeah.
For 4 years, in most cases, we've watched these guys kind of grow up, and they've always been willing to come out to youth hockey events and coach kids and stop and autograph things and say hi and get pictures.
It's tough because they're kind of the last of the sort of those transition players from the Dean Blaze years to the Mike Gabinet years, and so they've been through a lot. They've been through some ups and some downs last season, and so it's been a tough road for them. So I'm glad
they've given a lot. They've given a lot to the university and to the fans, and I think
they've worked really hard. And I think like you said, I think going forward, that's the kind of grit and determination we need, because they're not the most talented players that we've had on the roster,
right?
But they worked really hard the last couple seasons, and in particular this season.
And like you mentioned, they've gone through that coaching transition, and that's always hard, and it's easy just to say, I'm done, I'm going to go someplace else or something. But they stuck around and they said, we're going to see this through, and we like where the program's going, and I know they're a big reason why they're a big reason why we are where we are at this moment in time.
Absolutely. Yeah, Dean Stewart's a great pick. It was hard for me because there were a number of performances I liked. I thought Martin Sundberg had a great game on Friday night, and he's been a player that's kind of sort of come out of the shadows this season, and he's really played well throughout. But I've got to go because he had to come in off the bench. He wasn't prepared to play. I got to go with Austin Roden because I thought he looked great on Friday night, and it's good to know that we've got a guy who can come in off the bench and capably fill in if Isaiah Seville goes down, because we didn't have that kind of situation the previous 4 seasons. I mean, we had one guy, Evan Wenninger, and every once in a while you bring in Blankenberg, but we did not have a dependable second goalie. And
we tried a lot of different backups with him, and it seems like every time you threw someone in, you still went back to, all right,
you're
Evan's got to play.
Well, we got to go back to Evan. So Austin's a guy that I feel comfortable with him in net. I feel comfortable with him starting, and I think
I worry. My only concern with him at long term, assuming that if Seville is out for the next weekend,
right,
and Roden's starting, I don't know why he looked better coming in relief on Friday than he looked starting on Saturday, and I don't know if that was just
I don't know if it was
North Dakota or
I don't know if it was just North Dakota decided they weren't going to, they weren't playing games they were going to play, or I don't know either. I don't know if it was just he fed off the emotion, because it was a very emotional crowd on Friday night, as you're well aware. The UNO crowd was loud, they were in it, there was an energy. And there was no energy on Saturday night at all. And UNO gets down that one goal, and the place just died. As far as UNO fans meant. So maybe he fed off that emotion, that energy, the excitement. I think we all fed off of it when Isaiah Seville was kind of, sort of carried by his teammates and the trainer off the ice. So
Yeah.
I don't know either. If he does start this weekend at Denver, it'll be interesting to see
Yeah.
what happens. But yeah, I'm going to give it to him. But there were a lot of good performances on Friday night.
Our big line still continues to be productive, and
Yep.
that Conley and Weiss, Sullivan,
Yep.
seems to have a lot of chemistry going, and
They do. And we're going to get to see that, next year as well. So
we anticipate.
And I got to tell you, let's just say it. They performed really well without Taylor Ward this weekend when we thought that was going to be tough.
It is tough. I mean, I think Saturday is what shows you, like,
they could have used him.
You needed it. You really needed another line to put in some pressure, and we could have used him out there. But it is what it is, and as Coach said, and we've said in the last podcast, next man up. So
yeah, absolutely. So anyway, it was a good weekend. It was nice to get an exciting win to end the home season. I'm excited. I'm excited.
It was exciting to hear some changes to ticketing.
Yes, that came up on the replay board a few times this weekend. Absolutely. So they announced, and they didn't announce all season ticket prices. They said more news will be coming in April.
Okay.
But they mentioned that ticket packages will start at $195 next season. Now, the last few years that we have been at Baxter Arena, the lowest ticket price was 200 and what did Jolene say? 265.
65. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we pay 295 for our tickets. So 265. Those are the upper bowl seats in the ends of the arena, and so it looks like those are going to be $195 next season. So I guess I would ask you this: what do you think? Because we've seen Minnesota, we found out within the last couple weeks that they're going to lower ticket prices to try to help kind of flagging attendance at their games up at Mariucci Arena. So what do you think about the prices going down? I know you and I weren't, clamoring for lower ticket prices on this podcast. Maybe that's why they did it. Maybe if you and I clamor for, hell no, we're not going to lower prices. But this is something we've seen happening around the country.
Yeah, we talked when we had the rant on tickets.
Yes,
we talked about
I like how you use the royal. I had the rant on tickets. Jason was just looking at me
trying to be respectful.
How many minutes is he going to talk about this? But yes, continue, Jason.
We talked about the competition, right?
Right.
And UNO's not really competing with a whole lot, and I know a lot of people are like, well, they're competing with the Lancers. They're really not. There's not a lot of overlap between those two. What you're really competing with is the people who are just staying home and doing nothing.
Yeah.
So what I like is that it kind of motivates. It'll motivate some that were kind of on the fence
about potentially renewing their tickets,
right?
To keep their tickets.
I don't know that this is the solution for bringing in new fans and filling out the arena, because your season ticket holders, I don't feel are ones that are necessarily motivated in the majority sense, are motivated by price. I think they're the ones that are motivated by the prestige and the I don't know how I want to phrase this.
The 483 home game attendance streak.
Right. Well, you
like to have your same seats every game.
Well, yeah.
There's a comfort.
It's more like I feel like season ticket members. It's funny because and I know you hate when I go back and say this, but it's all I have for frame of reference. Like at DU with season.
Here we
tickets,
go with Jason's weekly DU reference.
They talked about being part of the DU family, and like they talked about it as and I know other sports talked about this. They 10th man and whatever or something, or 11th man or whatever it is. Like the fans become part of the group, and I feel like as a season ticket member holder, I feel more part of the team than the occasional fan that just comes to a game for some entertainment.
Sure,
right?
I would agree with that.
And so for me personally, I'm not so motivated by the drop. I appreciate the drop in price, but I'm not motivated by the drop in price. I would be more motivated by, as a season ticket member, you're going to get access to these more things that you only get access to as a season ticket member. And we've talked about some of those things, like
We've
just
talked
a
about
simple
those
thing
things.
like
Yeah.
discounted at concessions and
Those are
season
things-
ticket member only events.
Those are things we talk about, like a preseason picnic. Right now,
Right.
I think only the Blue Line Club board of directors do it. Well, it used to be that anybody who was a Blue Line Club
Yeah.
member, for example, could come, and they could do one where it's only season ticket holders are allowed to come and buy that. It's always hard to know. Part of it, I think, it's one of those things you kind of obviously when you look at this, it's understanding the crowd that embraced hockey back in the 1990s when the Omaha Lancers started, because they were the only game in town at that point. And before that, the only hockey that we had in this city, the only serious kind of organized hockey, were the Omaha Knights back in the 1970s and earlier. And that crowd for those Lancer games, they had a sellout streak like Husker football does. And those tickets, they were a hot commodity here. Creighton wasn't drawing anybody for basketball back in the 1990s. It's not like it is now where it's this gigantic like alumni Catholic Mafia party down there at the CHI Health Center. Hockey was this blue collar sport. And I don't want to project on, I don't know what everybody who went to those games did for a living, but it was this rough and tumble kind of working class. It was like the working man's team here in Omaha, and it was very much like a kind of an east of 72nd Street kind of crowd. It was that you would see International Brotherhood of Electrical Worker jackets on fans. You would see that kind of stuff. So it was that kind of audience. And ultimately then when UNO started hockey in the late 90s, a lot of those people kind of shifted over to UNO hockey. So a lot of that fan base was this kind of working class fan base. Then you had a lot of people who were kind of retirement age who follow the team, which still do follow the team. I think partly because they've got the time to do it. They don't have some of the family and work commitments that the younger fans do. And so it's very possible that for folks like that, kind of your working class fan and kind of your retirees, that a price drop will be helpful to them. As you and I've talked about, and you just mentioned, I think obviously having more kind of amenities for season ticket holders would be one way to kind of make people feel like they're part of a community, because I think that that's something that people, they want to feel like they belong to something. And sometimes if season tickets is just about having season tickets, it's hard to get people to motivated to re-up, because they can use all kind of justification by saying, well, First National Bank will have like 2-for-1 tickets as an example, or they do discounted tickets throughout the year. Why should I buy my season tickets? I've got a lot of family commitments and things like that. So it'll be interesting to see what they do with the rest of the tickets. We don't know whether all tickets will be discounted across the board or whether they'll just kind of lower the price of one set of season tickets. It made it sound from the announcement like there were going to be, discounts kind of across the season ticket strata, but I don't know what'll happen. So
talking to a friend that does university marketing, he works for a university. It's a small D3 school, and they have a hockey team. And so him and I were talking about season tickets, and I mean, they don't really have season tickets. They have donations, essentially just people who are boosters, right? And he said that what they're going to experiment with, and they've been talking with Facebook on how to do this, is that you're going to get Facebook groups based on, what level. So, all the people who give $100 a year are in one Facebook group. And if you give $500 a year, you're in that group and in the 500 club, right?
Well, Facebook obviously is going to love your friends, since they are pimping and promoting groups right now. Absolutely.
Well, and I think that's what it was, is, this big push by Facebook, and I don't want to get too much into that, but this big push by Facebook to do groups, and they looked at it saying, here's a way that, here's the people who are committed to this program, committed to this sport, committed to the athletics, right? Let's give them, they probably all know each other. Let's just give them a place where they can talk about stuff, and then you have their collective attention, right?
Yeah.
It's not, I'm not a huge Facebook fan, but I'm like, that's I think a pretty good strategy.
You enjoy the Mavpuck Facebook group.
Yeah.
And it doesn't it make you though feel like you want to renew your tickets every year because you're friends with a bunch of other fans and it's this community that you're part of and you're connected to them and it's
Yeah.
kind of fun to be part of something that's not just I'm going to hockey games and it's just about the hockey. It's fun to be part of a community and feel like you're engaging with other people who are part of this community and sometimes teams don't always do a lot to foster that. And the one thing I'd say on the donation thing that and
Hmm.
this is a little bit of an aside, but back when the tickets were 850, 1050, 1250 at the per game per seat per game at the Civic Auditorium, we sat in the third tier, which are kind of the equivalent of the seats that we have now, and those were 850 per seat per game. And so let's say roughly that you had 20 games. It was usually less than that, but let's say you had 20 games a season. You were talking about, like
Like
maybe around
160 a
100,
year. Yeah.
160 to, like 190 per season for a season ticket. Well, Bridget and I also donated on top of our 2 season tickets. They had priority seating donations that you could do, and you could get a parking pass. So I donated $250 on top of each of my 2 seats. So
Hmm.
obviously I was paying like 400 some when you added it on, but because the base ticket price was lower, I felt more like I wanted to donate
Yeah.
because I didn't feel like I was, sending all the money in via monthly payments for,
And I've seen some of the studies that look at it and say, like, if you lower your ticket price, you increase concession sales. And
right.
we talk about, I know people who talk about this. I guess I don't really do this, but
No, I don't either.
I
I
know
know, but
marketers.
yeah,
We go to the conferences.
yeah, we go to the conferences.
So I've talked to people that are in, and they talk a lot about, like, grocery stores
Right.
and how they make almost nothing on certain items,
Yep.
but those are the items that everyone needs. So
Yep.
you hook them in with those things, but what you're really trying to drive them to are all these other things
The
where
high
you
margin
actually make
items.
margin.
Yep. Yeah.
So, and I think from a university standpoint, that makes sense too, right? Like, I know I'm not, even if every seat in that arena was sold season tickets, everyone, like, every game was sold out, no discount. Okay,
Right.
they'd still lose money, guaranteed. You never set it up so that your ticket sales support. You can't. No one could afford it. So what you do is you encourage them to come to the game, and then you try to sell them memorabilia and concessions, because
Concessions.
that's where you make the most money.
And the idea is also the more people you have in that arena, the more attractive it is to potential corporate sponsors who are
Right.
buying the club seats, the suites, the dasher
Right.
boards, because suddenly it's like, oh, my message is in front of
Right.
all of these people. And that's how it helps defray the cost for people like rank and file season ticket holders like you and me.
Right.
So that's ultimately what they want to do. So
Cox wants their logo on the ice.
Yeah.
It's gonna cost you more because we're selling out the games and
Sure.
we've got more fans at each game. And so, yeah, I get, like, I really think that this will do, the lower prices will help, maybe some of those season ticket holders
Who are
that were on the
skeptical.
fence
Yeah.
about whether or not doing it again, and some of those people that came to a few games and were like, oh, well, I went to, X, Y, and Z,
Right.
and that ended up costing me, $110.
Yeah.
Maybe I just buy the full season. And
Exactly. If you're paying like, because like for a number of games and maybe all the games, the upper bowl seats are like $20 for a single game ticket, and then it's $30 for lower bowl. If you bring a family of 4 and you sit in the lower bowl, that's $120 to come
Right.
to a game. And so if $195 is not,
Yeah.
it's not that much difference, and you come to all
Right.
of the, you come to every, obviously you can come to, one person can come to every single game. And so, 4 of you at that price, it's a great deal.
I still think they would be well served by not only with the lower prices, but I think that they should do 2 things still. And I can't remember. I believe I mentioned these when we talked this. I think number 1, they should do a half season, Friday season, Saturday season, where you can get every Friday game or every Saturday game.
And they've done those half season ticket packages
past,
before,
I mentioned,
or
yeah.
they've also done the pick 10 games package.
Yeah, I always, those are always interesting to me, because it's like, how do you, like, I don't know.
It
With
was
10
it was
random
probably
ones, but-
easier in a conference like the CCHA because people could pick Notre Dame. They
Right.
could pick the marquee teams if they wanted to.
And that's where I go to, like, instead of doing that, like I would do a partial season all Friday or all Saturday, your pick, and then I would do a conference season. So you get every NCHC game.
Or you could do a first half package and a second half package, and maybe the first half package is cheaper than the second half package because
there's less.
Yeah.
But I think if you did all in, like the great thing is if you look at the schedule, assuming that the schedule shapes up to be about the way that it has in the past, right? If you do a conference only NCHC package, you get to pitch the conference, which is great, and B, all these fans that wouldn't want season tickets because I've got season tickets to the Huskers, and I don't want to mess with missing games.
I'm busy, or I'm busy in the fall with stuff that I'm not busy
fall
with
sports,
here.
Whatever.
They basically
you only have to worry about a couple games.
Yeah, basically it starts in November, and you might be talking like 1, maybe 2 series in November at home, and then you're really talking after the first of the year.
Yeah.
So yeah, you could do something like that. Like
basically
you said,
January
you could do,
through March, and
like you said, you could do a Friday or Saturday thing. I know schools like Wisconsin, for example, they had success with that back in the day.
Yeah.
And so there are a lot of that. So that's number one. I do think like a concession discount. I do think if you could like show your card or even have them scan the little code on your card or the code on your phone or whatever.
Yeah.
And get a discount with that. That way UNO could track who was buying concession, what concession items
or
the season ticket holders liked.
You just get when we get our season tickets, you get a
little
holder badge thing.
Yeah.
And that's good for discounts at concessions. It's good for discounts at the team store on campus or something
maybe
like that.
based more on you buy, maybe you earn points and you can earn exclusive merchandise that they, have made, whether it's a certain type of cap that's exclusive to season ticket holders or that type of thing.
How about this too? What if you could get Voodoo Taco and Godfathers and DJ's Dugout and some of those other things that are right there in Exarban Village, and say
that they would accept that discount card too.
We want to encourage people to come to your establishments before the game or after the game or anytime. If they show their season ticket member holder, they get 10% off.
And they show their special discount card. You could do something
quite
like
honestly,
that.
As someone who has to drive a decent amount to get to the game, we're always thinking about, okay, what's between us and the rink and where we're going to stop.
Are we going to eat
right?
before? Are we going to have time?
Right.
Yeah.
And so you do something like that, and I'm like, well, I would be much more motivated to go park, walk across over to Exarban Village, and go get
and
pizza.
Eat somewhere. Yeah. Beforehand, if that type of thing was there.
That would motivate me. It may not motivate everyone. It never would.
I feel like that's a simple thing, a relatively simple thing that would not cost them. Obviously, you have to kind of negotiate the deals with them, but I feel like that this type of thing that the merchants would like and you would like because it doesn't cost you a lot of money out of pocket. And I love the idea, probably because I brought it up, about like being able to earn points. Because I'd love to get like something as simple as like a season ticket holder exclusive license plate holder that said like Omaha Hockey and then season ticket holder. I would love that for my car because I can't go to the bookstore and buy that. And that would be really cool to have that kind of stuff, or even like a season ticket holder on a cap with like an O on there, so to show that you were different than everybody else, or even I
mean, I know they've been highlighting at the games. They highlight the season ticket holder of the game, and you guys were
that was an honor. The very first game, that was awesome.
Yeah, I think that something like that. It's almost like at work. I know you work from home, so
I do.
But at work, when we hit certain 5-year, 10-year, 15-year anniversaries, right? Like you get a little something. Yeah, and it's kind of a cool little thing. And I think from a season ticket member holder, like if you had a 5th season, gift that you got, maybe it's a license plate holder, so that your car gets, I've been a season ticket holder for 5 years, or
a certain type of like a window decal or a bumper sticker type decal for you. Yeah, any of those things.
I mean, I know that Colorado has this. I don't think anymore. Someone told me that they don't do this anymore. When they first started doing specialty license plates, the DU one and the CC one and the CU Boulder one and the CSU Fort Collins one, you had to be either a graduate or a current student or a season ticket holder of sporting events in order to get the license plate. Okay. So you couldn't just go, I want DU Pioneer stuff all over my car, right? And I want a DU Pioneer license plate. Yeah. You had to be, it was a special thing. You had to be. So when you saw that on someone's car, you knew they graduated from there, they were a booster or something like that. So
And it helps motivate that whole thing that we talk
Yeah.
about called FOMO, where it's
Yeah.
like, well, I don't want to miss out on that. I want to get my special whatever it is.
And it's the community, right?
Yeah.
Like, I, as a season ticket holder, see someone getting out of their car that has the 10th season ticket,
Yeah.
whatever, emblem on their car or license plate holder or something like that. Like, I would feel better about going up to them, and I'd be more like, hey, how the Mavs do, and talking to them, because there's a good chance I probably know them, I just didn't recognize them. But you create that community, and people will see that in town and be like, I want to be a part of that group.
It is, because Bridget has mentioned many times, she basically, most of our wardrobe is UNO gear, as you're well aware.
Right.
And like anytime she goes out, she wears a lot of times her UNO like windbreakers, jackets. And the number of people that ask her, do you work for UNO?
Right.
I mean, it's interesting. Like, you wear Husker gear. Nobody asks you if you work for
the university,
but you wear UNO gear. People ask that because it is kind of a niche special sport. So the more of those kind of special things that you can have, I think the better. And I think it just adds to kind of this kind of the cool prestige factor of what UNO could be if they did some of those little things. And again, they're not very expensive things to do. So that, along with discounts, I think is very exciting. And we'll talk about that more later. Jason and I have said when season tickets are coming out, we'll talk about it. Now, I don't know if we'll be completely out of hockey and podcast mode by the time April rolls around, but I'm pretty sure we won't. So we'll talk when the season ticket holder information comes out. We'll talk about that more on the podcast. Maybe we'll get Bridget and Jolene here to talk about it too, because they always have a lot of really good opinions on that topic. So until then, we've got another series coming up. Playoff series.
Yeah.
First round of the NCHC playoffs.
First time we're going to Denver this season.
Yep. We finished 6th in the conference. And it was back and forth on Friday, Saturday night whether we were going to get
Western Michigan or Denver.
And we got Denver.
Yeah.
Our nemesis.
Yeah.
A team that we have not had success against.
Would you have rather had Western Michigan?
No, no, because I think that they have, and you and I were talking about this as it regards the pairwise rankings. Right now, I think you looked it up before the game.
Western Michigan sitting 16.
Yeah, Western Michigan
prior to the news polls and everything kind of coming out, but yeah,
exactly. And I don't know if there are any games being played today. I have not memorized the entire Division I, but I'm going to pull up the pairwise here. But Western's right on the cusp of. They're right on the cusp of not making it into the tournament as an at-large. So they're in a very precarious position right now because there's always an auto bid from Atlantic Hockey every year. And by and large, the Atlantic Hockey team is not a strong enough team in the pairwise to have gotten an at-large bid on their own. So they would generally be the number 16 seed in the tournament. So that means there are 15 at-large bids, but there can be upsets in the WCHA tournament, the Big Ten tournament. You just never know what's, UNO plays well. They could be the upset team in the NCHC. So, you know what I'm saying, Jason. They have a lot more to play for. I'm not saying Denver doesn't, but Denver's number 5, I think you said, in the pairwise. So they're in a much better position right now to get an at-large bid where, Western is playing for their lives at this point.
Yeah, because if you look at Atlantic Hockey, the top team right now in Atlantic Hockey, which you assume that they make it through their conference tournament and go to NCAAs.
Where they're Sacred
They're
Heart?
26th. AIC.
Wait, is Sacred Heart?
Sacred Heart's 2. AIC's number 1.
Okay, so AIC is the number 1 team in the conference.
And they're 26th, I think?
Yes. And Sacred Heart is number 2, and they're 23. So they're not going to get at-large bids to the NCAA tournament. So one of those teams is going to take the number 16 slot.
And everyone else is out.
And anybody below that's out. And so 15
So now you have to be 15.
Yeah, you got to be 15 or higher. And that's
best case scenario, you have to be 15.
That's assuming there's not an upset in the WCHA tournament where Mankato doesn't end up winning it or one of the other higher rank. And I don't know if there's anybody else from the WCHA. It doesn't look like there's anybody else in the top 16 in the pairwise. So that's the thing. If you have upsets in 2 of those tournaments, which does happen and has happened in recent years, suddenly you have to be one of the top 14 teams. So back to our original point, would I have rather had Western? No, because Western has a lot more to play for.
Yeah.
And they're fighting for their lives, so they've got to keep winning games. So
it's difficult because I think that we match up better
I
against
think we
Western
do
Michigan.
too. I think we do too.
But yeah, I think, as I said, Denver, I think it's more likely that they look beyond UNO and start thinking about who do they have to face
Right.
when they get to Minneapolis.
And Western has not. I will say the one thing about Western that would have been appealing is they have not been a great postseason team by and large under Andy Murray. They just haven't had a lot of NCAA tournament type success or NCHC tournament type success. So you're right. I think, to me, I think Denver's the more appealing matchup just because I think we have an extra amount of motivation against them that goes beyond the NCHC tournament and getting auto bids. I think the team just wants to break through and beat them and get that monkey off of their back.
Yeah. So, predictions? Do we want to...
Predictions for this series. Will it go 2 games? Will it go 3 games? Will UNO win a game?
For those that maybe don't know, just to make sure that we're all on the same page here.
Best of 3 series.
Best of series. We play Friday, we play Saturday. If necessary, we play Sunday.
And I'll tell you what, if we play Sunday, it's really going to mess up this podcast, people. I'm going to be coming out here at like 9 o'clock on
Sunday
since
night.
it's a Mountain Time Zone game, and we'll be recording it then. Here's what I'm going to say. I think it would be terrific if we finally got the monkey off our back and finally got a win. And this would be a great weekend to do it. Postseason weekend. You know, there have been some rough things despite the fact that we had that great win against North Dakota, you know, of our last 4 games, we got shut out in 3 of them. So we've had our ups and we've had our downs, and it kind of, you know, illustrates our season. The fact of the matter is, though, we played Denver tough this season in the one series we had against them. I'm going to say that UNO wins Friday and we lose the games on Saturday and Sunday. So it goes 3 games. We don't quite make it, but we get that kind of monkey off our back of, you know, not having defeated Denver in years.
Okay. I think we beat Denver 1 game as well.
Which game do you think?
I think if we're going to win, we're going to win Friday. I think if we lose Friday, we lose Saturday, and we're done.
Okay.
I struggle to see their resilience that kind of come back from that, right? But I would say my prediction is I think we win on Friday.
Okay.
And Denver comes out and wallops us, kind of like what North Dakota did on Saturday.
Sure. Yeah, that's kind of what I was thinking about.
And I'm going to say that UNO finds a way to shock them on Sunday.
What the hell? Are you just like, you're stealing the Jon optimism trait? We didn't quite finish 5th, which was what I was talking about ever since preseason. We were very close.
We were.
And now Jason's saying we're going to win 2 out of 3.
At Denver.
Oh my gosh. This is amazing. This is normally a Jon prediction. I like how you're stealing my optimistic thunder, but I like that prediction. I like it very much. I say we win 1. And there's part of the reason I only think we win 1 is like they'll be so elated that they finally won 1 that it'll just kind of be, you know, downhill after that. But I like that.
That's why I don't think we can sweep.
I like that it's downhill the next night. And then Sunday, when all you're needing to do is win 1 game at that point. The pressure's kind of, you know, like this is it. This is sudden death for us. We've done what we needed to do this weekend. We got a win against a team that we haven't had success against.
The thing is that the way I look at it is like you go in Friday and there's no pressure on anyone on Friday.
Right.
You know, Denver's expected to win. UNO's not. You know, UNO needs to go in with that mentality that they had against North Dakota, that no one's giving us a shot. We're going to prove them wrong, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think the pressure gets put on Denver for Saturday, and it's so high because it's just one of those matchups you expect to beat them because of their success against us for so long, that there's almost this letdown that comes from being able to do that. It happened to Denver against Colorado College back in the WCHA. So it wouldn't be the first time the same thing happened where you were supposed to beat Colorado College and Colorado College it was a fluky goal that got late in the third that got them a win against Denver on Friday night. And Denver came back and just pounded them. I think it was like a 7-1 win on Saturday. Like Denver came out and said, all right, we're Denver. We're going to show you where you belong. And Sunday coming into the WCHA conference, Colorado College just hung with them. And it was this back and forth. No one really had an advantage. And if I remember right, it went to overtime. And it's just overtime games, these game 7 kinds of things, just weird things happen.
It was kind of like when UNO, this was our first season at Baxter Arena, the 2015-16. Mm-hmm. We ended the season with Denver. Mm-hmm. And then we had to go play Denver. Yeah. And that second game went to double overtime.
Right.
And you're just like, can they? And we didn't do it. And obviously in the Baxter Arena era, we have not defeated Denver. And I should also mention, because your wife texted this to our little group text, and she'll be mad if we don't mention it, but UNO, since they've been playing in Baxter Arena, they have not won the final home game mm-hmm. of the season. We have not won one yet, so we're gonna have to take care of that next season. But anyway, I know exactly what you're saying. You never know when you get into those overtime games, and if UNO can keep it close, and the big thing they've got to be careful of is a guy like Derflinger for DU is kind of a goon. He's kind of a goony player. He's gotten, booted from games, etc. They've got to be careful about not getting sucked into that kind of game where they start taking these just cheap, dumb penalties. Because as well as I do, UNO can kind of play emotional in that regard. And they've got to keep their heads about them. If they minimize the mistakes, I think they can. But my hope is like you. My hope is that they win Friday night. Because that puts all the pressure then on Denver.
Right.
And I think that way UNO Saturday night can just play, loose and see what happens. And it may not go their way, but you've still got another night to play if it doesn't. So I like that prediction. I like that optimistic prediction from you.
Don't expect more of it.
Don't expect more. Don't expect more of it. Well,
do you want to, having called our predictions for this, do you want to take a guess at who makes the Frozen Face-Off in Minneapolis now?
Yes, let's do that.
So obviously, I can start because I already have UNO going and you have Denver going. So we know, based on our predictions for this weekend of that series, we know where those stand.
And we all know with Jason, when he does his championship picks, he basically curses and jinxes the team. So fans, which team do you want? We should have done a poll on that. Which fan do we want to have Jason jinx in the NCHC playoffs? So the number 1, number 8 matchup will be Colorado College playing at North Dakota next weekend.
North Dakota.
I'm going to say North Dakota too. The Colorado College last season was a pretty impressive team.
Yeah.
And they almost kind of remind me of us this season, where they're kind of up and down, but they play tough against some really. This season, I haven't seen that out of them, right. So I don't see their ability to go 3.
Duluth and Miami. I'm going to take Duluth. I don't see anything.
I'm going to take Miami. Duluth either. Miami's better this season, but I don't think they can get it done.
So St. Cloud heads to Kalamazoo versus Western Michigan.
This is one where, and you and I were talking before, and I remember watching some of this series. St. Cloud did not do particularly well in their series at Kalamazoo this season. But I'm going to pick the upset there. I'm going to say St. Cloud upsets Western Michigan.
I was going to say the same. So we're in agreement on that.
They don't have, as you know, St. Cloud doesn't have the depth that they had last season, but they've got an awful lot of talent. They've got a couple Paling brothers, Easton Brodzinski, David Rennick. Yeah.
You know what that means, though? For my bracket.
What does that mean for your brackets?
That means we get a North Dakota Omaha rematch in Minneapolis.
Boy, that'd be great. And mine is not very exciting. It's
you get North Dakota St. Cloud,
which that'd be a really interesting matchup, having North Dakota play St. Cloud. Yeah.
Yeah. So let's run your bracket.
Why didn't I pick Omaha? This is not exciting at all.
now now I'm boring.
Now I'm bored. Okay, all right, fine.
All right, North Dakota St. Cloud. Who gets out of it to the finals?
I'm gonna say North Dakota.
Okay, and Duluth, Denver.
I picked all the. Oh, I didn't pick all the higher seeds. I'm gonna say. I'm going to say Duluth.
Interesting.
They're my national championship pick, so I'm going to say Duluth gets to that final game again.
North Dakota, Duluth.
I'm going to say Duluth beats them.
Okay.
Hunter Shepard has a lights out game. And he gets the job done.
They're NCHC champions. Huh?
Yes.
Again.
I don't know if they won last season. Did they lose to St. Cloud? No, they did. They won. And then they went on to win the national championship. And then St. Cloud got upset by American International in the first round of the NCAA tournament. So that's what I'm going to say. So I'm waiting for Jason now to pick UNO to win this thing. Because if UNO gets there, despite whatever plague may have hit, the Minneapolis-St. Paul area, I will be up there for that in my hazmat suit. So yes, Jason, in your North Dakota UNO matchup at the NCHC Frozen Face-Off, who do you think will win?
North Dakota.
Okay. And then
since I jinx teams, I'm gonna pick North Dakota.
Oh, okay. Yes, I like this. Okay, great.
Little reverse psychology on my own.
Reverse psychology.
We'll see if this works.
North Dakota over UNO.
We'll take North Dakota over UNO in the first round, and I'll take Duluth over St. Cloud. I think North Dakota beats Duluth in the finals.
Okay.
I will say that if I was running your bracket, though, I'm taking Denver. But that's probably just,
Of course you're taking... It's an interesting atmosphere. We went last year for the first time, and if the Minnesota teams are there, you get a lot of the locals out for that. And yeah. Obviously North Dakota wasn't there last, so I don't know what'll happen when the NODAC fans are there, but yeah, Denver would be an interesting pick, and we'll just have to see what happens. But I like your pick. I like that UNO is going to go. Finally, the only team to not get to the NCHC Frozen Face-Off. So we need that to happen. So that'd be good.
See what we can do.
Yeah, well, for sure. Let's hope we're talking about something fun next week on the podcast. That'd be great. And it'd be great to see UNO upset their way to the NCHC Frozen Face-Off. So let's get it done, guys. But until next time, you can follow Mavpuck on Facebook, follow Mavpuck on Twitter. You can listen to back episodes of this podcast. If at this point you feel a need to go relive the
the ticketing run
earlier part of the season, yes, please go back and listen to past episodes. And you can find all of those from various services on Mavpuck.com. You can watch on YouTube, watch Jason's nice animation. You can listen on Apple Podcasts. You can listen on SoundCloud, and you can find links to all of those at Mavpuck.com. So, until next weekend, with our big series against Denver, go Mavs.
Go Mavs.